Good afternoon, everyone. Super excited to be here. First time in Australia. I did take a picture with koala, but it was the plastic one on the airport, so I need to find a real one. I want to tell you a story because a few months back, I was in North Greece, in Thessaloniki, and I went to a pop-up run by a friend of mine called Thanos. And since it was a run pop-up, I ordered a daiquiri. And I haven't had a daiquiri for like 6 months. So you know what? I'll have another one. Fuck, it was amazing. It was delicious. And then I had another one. And after that, I ordered a twist on a daiquiri. And it was ended up at like a big night. And I was thinking about it in the morning. I said, you know what? The classic drinks, hospitality, or cocktails in general, like everything has been said about drinks and hospitality. But what intrigues me, what makes it so interesting, is to hear other people's perspective on the subject, you know? So I think everything has been said, but but it's important to keep on repeating it to our staff, fresh, over and over and over, in sort of new and different ways. So I'm here not to tell you anything you don't know. I'm not here to talk about anything new, but I'm here to share my perspective of drinks. I want to show you how I work with the Kuyper liqueurs, and I want to talk about my approach to hospitality and building a great bar team, because all of these things are the essential ingredients of running a successful bar. And this is really something close to my heart. Several years ago, I was in Grasse in south of France, and I went to the Perfume Institute doing this like a beginner's course, because I always thought that perfumes and cocktails and liqueurs have lots in common. And it wasn't until the meeting with Monsieur Bodify, the president, one of the people who actually developed Chanel No. 5. It's a secret. I shouldn't be telling you that. So I told him about this theory I had, you know, how much we have in common. And it was like a revelation to me, because he told me I was completely wrong. And he told me the difference between a perfumer and a bartender is major, because perfumers use alcohol as a vehicle to deliver flavors, whilst as bartenders, we actually look for the flavors which are in the alcohol often. And I thought it was quite striking. And then he takes me to laboratory at the ground floor of the institute, and on the doors to the lab, there's a little sign. And I was quite intrigued about what the sign is. And it goes, before perfumery, creativity, and originality, there's methodology, organization, and order. And I was like, this speaks from my heart, because this one sentence defines about what is great establishment, like the ones you guys run. This is absolutely defines what bar is about. If you're not organized, well, how the hell are you gonna get through Friday night? If you don't have a great methodology, how the hell are you gonna build the round of 7 drinks all in one go? So I think that at bottom of it all, for cocktails, it's really important to be organized. So before cocktails, creativity and mixology, there's always methodology, organization, and order. So what I'll start with today is that I will reflect on some of the changes I see happening in the industry, and then I tell you how I work with flavors. I think it's fabulous. There's so many changes happening in the industry, and seeing it kind of on a global scale is fascinating to me. Even our industry is changing. It's actually completely upside down. From an industry which was completely dominated by marketing, it suddenly all flipped to education. The issue we sometimes have is that the education is still written by marketeers. Cocktail is once again perceived to be a culinary art, which it wasn't when I was starting in the business. We have craft distilling, natural wines, specialty coffee. Consumers, they defined, all the premium and natural stuff. And I think many of us often tell our guests, you should drink less and better. And what people do is they drink the same and better, which is good news for us, because it really means we're doing our job right. There's never been more media interest, and we are going from an industry which has been so dominated by brands to an industry which will soon be dominated by personalities. Because now you see that bartenders have TV shows and stuff. This doesn't exist when I was starting in the industry. But what caused these changes? Well, I think it was your approach of doing things. We prepare so much more. So we reduce the execution times on the shift because we prepare so much more every day. You batch, you prepare your ingredients, you turn everything into the liquid rather than muddling it. So we are much more prepared, so we can execute faster when we are on the shift. And that is directly connected with the use of the produce. Because once again, every modern bartender realizes that all ingredients have same culinary value. It doesn't matter if you're using super ultra deluxe, incredible, mega, super cool vodka, if you don't care about the rest. Because the lemon juice has the same culinary value, disregarding the price. If you don't measure the bricks in your sugar syrup, well, how the hell your daiquiris are balanced all the time? I cannot make my mind around that. We reduce menus. The modern menu is so much more shorter than what it used to be when I started in business. When I was 16, my first job in the Czech Republic, any place to be considered a cocktail bar would have to have at least 250 to 400 cocktails on the menu, because otherwise you just haven't been a cocktail bar. Now the thing was that we never had all the ingredients and nobody knew the recipes. But it didn't matter, because if you had anything less than 200 cocktails, you were a cafe or a pub. So things are so much more better today. Talking about cocktails, I think it can be difficult to explain what cocktails are about. And sometimes it is because we want to explain in a complicated way. Because we are like egomaniacs as a bartenders. My sister asked me about how I go around cocktails, and I was thinking long and hard how to explain it to her. And I came to this, and I go, to me, cocktails are like a language. And me as a creative individual, I use all the ingredients, how to express myself. Now, what the language consists of? Language consists of lexicon and grammar. Lexicon is the words we use, and grammar is the way how we combine them all together. So ultimately, saying the more words you know, the better know how to build the sentences, the better, more interesting sentences you can put together, the more interesting language you can speak. So if lexicon is the ingredients and grammar is the way of how we combine them together, the more interesting cocktails we make. It's, I think, easy to get lost in it if you don't have a system. And I'm going back to my original point. It is really important to be organized, because if you're not organized, you're not going anywhere. So if you understand what's your creative process and how you get around things, at any one point, if you can tell where you are, it means that you know what you need to do next. To me, and this is I'm quoting somebody who I don't remember where I stole it from, to me, creative process has 5 different stages. It's awareness, inspiration, interpretation, execution, and evolution. And if you understand all these different stages and what needs to happen in all the different stages, well, then it's very easy to work around it. To start with, to be aware, you need to pay attention to everything. So if you fly for 22 hours from London to Brisbane, try to not to fall asleep, because there's a lot of things which can inspire you. It's very important to pay attention to everything, to movies, to theater, to science, because all of these things will enrich your life and your mind. And to me, Nick Strangeway perfectly summed it up at the symposium we had early on this year in Paris. And he said, don't think about the cocktail all the time, go to theater, go to concert, read a book. because all of these things can inspire you to create interesting drinks. So I think, first of all, try to have a rich life as a bartender, and we are quite lucky. Like, if you are a teacher or if you work for a government, you never get invited to any parties. As a bartender, you know, it's cool to be a bartender because you fly into Sydney where you've never been, and you jump, you know, a queue which would take you 45 minutes to get in the club. And then 5 in the morning you are at McDonald's eating burger. So now we are inspired, and the way how we will interpret this inspiration, there's really 2 different ways how to get around it. It's either unconscious, because you just do it based on what you experience, or you can do a bit of research. And let's be honest, nowadays world is extremely complex. So if you do a bit of a research, you will definitely come up with something which is much more interesting. The next stage to me, no matter what you're developing, whether it's a cocktail, whether it's a product, whatever you're working on, you need to do this like a basic forecheck. You need to think of functionality, because the things, first of all, need to work. If it doesn't work, there's no point of doing it. The second thing I tend to think about is aesthetics. Is it actually gonna fit in the place? Like, I think a lot of the cocktails which we created at Artisan in the hotel bar, it wouldn't work anywhere else. Like who gives a shit about evaporated scent in a dive bar? Nobody does. So with that comes manufacturability. Are we actually able to produce this? You know, like at the beginning, I was quite naive because I thought that you just call up a factory, you tell them what you want, and they're able to make it. Not everything is possible to manufacture. You know, and we discussed it on this beautiful Kuyper Tiki Max. If you compare them one by another, they are all different because they are made by hand. You know, to make a tooling for such a Mac would be quite insane, I think. And then usability. You know, like, can you actually drink from this glass, and how the people will feel about it? This is really important things to consider. When it comes to developing a liquid, I think first question you need to ask is the purpose. What is the purpose of this drink? Where I'm actually, you know, what's happening with this? What is going to be the flavor intensity of the ingredients I'm using? Like, we're in Australia, you're famous for cedarwood, for sandalwood, and flavor intensity of a sandalwood in the hand wash is going to be, or a perfume, is going to be 10,000 times higher than if I want to use it in the cocktail. Obviously. With that comes things like texture and the mouthfeel. You know why fries with a ketchup at the McDonald's at 5 o'clock in the morning work so well? It's because the ketchup is very smooth and the fries tend to be crispy. It's the same like why in the restaurants they pour you the soup over the croutons. Because if they pour it in the kitchen, by the time it gets to your table, the croutons are gonna be soft, so they won't give you the crunch. The sound will work with that. And this is a huge advantage chefs have when they work with the ingredients, because to create contrasting and exciting textures is much more easier when you have so many different things. But we are somehow limited to liquids or things which are really tiny and small. Temperature. Again, when I was starting in the bar business, there was 2 types of drinks, very cold and very hot. And both of them would burn your tongue. I was judging a cocktail competition in Switzerland the other day, and the guy who won the comp, his cocktail was served at 15 degrees, because that was the best temperature, best spot where he captured the liquid was working the best. And he won. So there's temperatures in between, and it's up to us to make that call, to make the decision, and think about it. I didn't used to think about it when I was starting, how it's gonna feel, you know. And now we're getting to the stage of prototyping. But as much as you are testing and tasting, you also need to consider the business part of it. One thing nobody teaches is, you know, cost calculations and all the boring bits. But if you're on a bar, that's very important, no matter whether you're owner or a head bartender, because a full bar which sells thousands and thousands of drinks, you know, that doesn't mean that you're actually making any money. And you will be surprised by how many famous bars are actually not making money. So it takes a really fine balance. With that comes cost calculation, working together with your suppliers, working with the distributors, and working with things like seasonality. I tasted the dessert limes, the traditional Australian ingredient, up in the kitchen early on. Like, I'm from Europe. How do I know it's going to be available for next 10 months? So it's really important to pay attention to every single detail, because it's not about just creating something which tastes delicious, but it needs to work as a business model at the same time. So cocktails really, in my eyes, are about creating a synergy. And I completely disagree with people who say that when you taste a drink, you should be able to spot every single ingredient, because I still think about ingredients like I think of perfumes. And what is a perfume? Perfume to me is sort of olfactory story. It's a flavor which doesn't exist. You take many different ingredients and you combine the flavor of a fresh rain. So it can be sometimes abstract, and I think that some of the best drinks I ever tasted, they combine a lot of different elements and created a new synergy, something interesting. But in order for these things to work, you need to be organized. And another quote I stolen, order is the shape upon which beauty depends. It's a very famous writer. I really think this applies. And the thing which we often mistake, or we tend to make, the thing is that we always tend to look at cocktails from the historical perspective. And I think that's wrong. Figs, Daisy, Swizzle, why do you wonder the general public finds cocktails so complicated? It's because we like to often explain it in a very complicated terms. If you break it down from the culinary perspective, from the point of view acidity, sweetness, all these things, you go back to Magnificent Seven, the very well-known theory from a dear friend of mine, Wayne Collins, one of very influential London bartenders. If you look at things from the culinary perspective, you realize that all these subcategories can be actually broken down into 7 groups. Yes, the milk punch, I take the point as a cooked and the uncooked milk punch, but pretty much everything else you can derive from that. Daisy de Santiago, what is it? If you follow the recipes by numbers, of course it's not going to work, but what you need to realize is that liqueur has less bricks than a sugar syrup. So that's why you need to do the split sweetener, or you need to put more of the liqueur. So it's very important to be able to understand from the culinary perspective what you're actually trying to achieve. And the reason why many people are not able to make a drink that is balanced is because they don't understand these 7 concepts. And once you master them, you can create anything. So suddenly you're not thinking of a recipe of one of these guys, but you're thinking of a flavor that you want to achieve. I was working in Peru on a collaboration with a chef friend of mine, and we've been in the jungle foraging all the different ingredients. We came back trying to work with them, was pain in the ass, and I was getting frustrated because I have this a Western preconception about things. And the recipes would be 80 ml of fermented mucilago, which is the flesh of cacao, and 10 ml of pisco. But it had everything. It had the acidity, the sweetness, it had the body. We needed to boost it up a little bit with the pisco to add some of the floral notes. But that was it. So in my eyes, it's really, if you master all the concepts, you can progress. It's like chef. The first thing you need to learn is to cook eggs. Once you know how to make all the different egg preparations, then you can move forward, really. So, is it important to be the first? Originality? I think this is topics people often tend to challenge us. And what I ask them is a simple question, and this is a favorite analogy of mine, because I tend to often, when people challenge me on originality, I tell them okay, so tell me who invented a whiskey smash? And most bartenders, or my barbacks, they would tell you Del de Groff, because that's the concept they know. As far as I know, if you go in literature, the first written mention of a whiskey smash is Jerry Thomas, 1862. And for me, this is like the first time somebody puts a concept on the map. Then if you think the next version we know, Del de Groff, when he was opening a Rainbow Room in 1987, what he has done, he has taken an existing concept and added acidity. He added a lemon to it because he felt it was lacking acidity. And he created a new drink, but it was only an addition to an existing recipe. And it wasn't until 2008 when a young and charming bartender from Germany, Jörg Meyer, opted for basil instead of mint, and instead of whiskey, he used gin. Now he's making with the Rute celery gin. So what he has done, he has taken an addition on an existing recipe and created a new drink. So what I really mean here is it's not important to be first. It's actually very difficult to be the first. In fact, it's 2016, so it's pretty much impossible to be the first. But what's very important is always to conceptualize. And here we are again, talking about new different ways of interpreting things. You know, putting a new different perspective on it. And then to me, is very important. So, how do you create cocktails? I was speaking with my grandma the other day, and she was like, so you get like very drunk, and then you realize like it works together, and you make that? You know, like, this is what people think about what we're doing. I wish it was that funny, and I wish I had all the money to waste to make drinks this way, but actually that's not the reality. And you will probably know this exercise, but I often bring it up because it's something I learned from another chef friend of mine. I just happen to be working with a lot of chefs. I wish it was somebody else. This exercise is called flavor bouncing. And basically what it allows you is, rather than wasting money behind the bar and wasting your energy, you know, it allows you to derive recipes right on the paper or the basic ideas for the recipes. It's so easy to go behind the bar, half a bottle of whiskey later, all the wasted lemons and herbs, you still created nothing. You know, like, you just waste things. This way, you can actually learn, you know, to create the recipes in an easy way. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take a bunch of ingredients, and I just put a very basic example here, so you can all understand it. So if I was a chef, on the middle of my paper, I would put the protein. And in this case, our protein would be something like a rum, or vodka, or whiskey, whatever you like. And then around, you write the rest of the other ingredients. So I put here lemon, and chocolate, and olives, with mandarins, and a stout, because I like beer, and some vermouth, because it's very fashionable right now. So what do we need to do right now is that we will check whether all the flavors are bouncing with each other. Does lemon go with rum? Well, totally. It's a citrus, exactly like mandarins. And I told you about the daiquiris. I know it works. So you see, because you had all the amazing rum cocktails all your life, so you should drink to experience things. We are not drinking, we are learning. You know the citrus will work with rum, so we'll do the chocolate. How many spirit tastings you've been? Because every company will tell you that this particular chocolate is best with this whiskey, or cognac, or rum, or Armagnac, or whatever else. Olives and rum, well, now we have a little bit of an issue, because I didn't tell you, I didn't specify which kind of rum and what type of olives I actually have in mind. You know, let's say aged rum, I don't think green olives go very well with the aged rum. But I can totally imagine something like the Greek Kalamata olives that will work with rum very well. In fact, we had some 2 nights ago in the bar. Stout, beer and a rum. Well, let me tell you, after 3 nights in Australia, it definitely works. And I had plenty of beers and some shots of Ocho. Vermouth and rum, well, I mean, don't get me even started on that. Presidente, Manhattans, we know these things will work. So we went around and you realize that everything is bouncing with the main ingredient. We don't have anything which doesn't bounce, so we're gonna keep everything for our recipe. And the next thing we will do is that we will check whether all these things work with each other. So what you need to ask yourself is, does lemon work with chocolate? and with olive, and with mandarin, and stout, and vermouth, and this is how you go around. Well, does lemon work with chocolate? Totally. Citrus fillings for chocolate, that's quite common. Lemon and olives, again, Mediterranean Europe or Middle East, you often have like a peels or lemon bits stuffed in the olives. Lemon and stout as a beer. How many craft breweries use things like yuzu and mandarins for their stouts and IPAs? It's gonna work. So basically, what you see now is a diagram that gives us an idea that all the ingredients are working with each other. If there was something which wouldn't bounce, even just with one of them, what do? You simply take it out. And you don't consider it for the recipe, because you're just gonna be wasting your time. So now you see, the more ingredients you know, the more you understand how to combine them, the easier it gets to write a recipe. Because a recipe like this, you can write pretty much just on a piece of a paper. And it's a really simple take on a Manhattan, because this is, I think, the most basic thing which came to my mind. 2 parts of aged rum, 1 part of vermouth, mandarin bitters and a stout extract instead of the traditional bitters you would put there. Lemon peel for the aroma, olives and a chocolate leaf as a garnish. It's literally that simple, but it is your call. So you might perhaps say, well, I want to use the lemon and the mandarin in the form of a juice. Someone else, perhaps yourself, might say, you know what, I don't want to be using the stout as an extract. I would like to use it as a foam. I mean, beer forms it by itself, just by blitzing it with a blender. So these things don't matter, because this is your expression, this is your creative language. So the way how you use one of the Kuyper liqueurs, there's many different ways how to approach it, and this is some of the things I want to show you today. So, how do you create new drinks? Well, in my eyes, there's only 4 different ways how to create a new drink. Actually, it's the basic principle of innovation. So the one thing you need to remember out of today is Alex said, you either substitute, you add, you invert, or you delete. Substitution, addition, inversion, and deletion. This is the basic principles of any innovation. You take an existing product, existing cocktail concept, and you either substitute, you add new things, you swap things around, and you simply take things out. It's that easy, that simple. Now, when we talk about cocktails, I think it's not only about the ingredients, but it's also about ideas. And that brings me to my next favorite quote from a very famous chef again, Massimo Bottura, who said, important is not only quality of ingredients, but also quality of ideas. So I'm gonna now show you a couple of drinks using the Kuyper liqueur range, which can inspire you. And we have the sexy boys preparing some of the samples, so we can do a round of applause, because I'm sure they're coming very soon. Now, from the whole portfolio and from all the different Kuyper products, one product I love particularly so much is the Old Simon, Geneva, from Rute Distillery. It's part of the Kuyper family. Many years ago, we went for the Geneva Festival in Schiedam. And if you are in Schiedam, you can jump on a water taxi, because that's what they do in Holland. They have water taxis. So you probably have it as well here. You jump on a little boat, and in half an hour you arrive to Dordrecht. And in the center of Dordrecht, there is this beautiful, like vintage-looking shop, which has been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And the only thing they sell is Rute, because the distillery is right behind those doors. They make Genevas, they make amazing gins, and I think you're bringing Rute soon to Australia. This is the first thing coming. So over here we combine the Old Simon Geneva, so very nice, beautiful multi notes with some bee pollen, and we have a touch of heather and bitters, little bit of rose, and we have there also some gentian.
We'll just ask everyone as well just to hold tight while we get these out. There's a few little elements that you might need to add to these drinks as we go along. And we'll let Alex take us through on how the drink tastes.
So a friend of mine told me that if you want to be creative, you need 3 things. You need money, you need money, and you need money. And I think I disagree with that a little bit, because I think sometimes it's about being curious and taking things and putting them different concept. So I'm gonna serve this drink, which I already batched, so I don't make any mistakes today in Australia. I'm gonna serve it in this egg, which was originally designed actually to cook eggs. So you put the egg in there and you cook it evenly in the oven. But what struck me about this vessel was the ability to use different aromas. So Australia, of course, as you know, is famous for cedarwood. And there was one thing when I was doing my research about Australia, was one of the things which really struck me, because you import so much sandalwood and cedarwood, and I was like, I should really use that. So at the bottom, we have some cedarwood chips. I'm just gonna toast them a little, and that's gonna give us these beautiful woody aromas. And obviously the construction is gonna get really hot, but that's fine, because once you raise the egg, it will cover your nose. So it will completely separate it from that. And I think when you make cocktails, it should always be about creating ingredients. Here is the aroma of the rose. So you see that you can create something which is very theatrical and intriguing, but it changes to something completely different once you send it there. So I send you this damask rose and heather. It's an organic aroma from a friend of mine. She developed it because she loves perfumes to drink it from water. I think it tastes disgusting with water, but it works amazing well in the cocktails. You know, so I'm telling her every time I see her, you should change your marketing plan. So you can try the drink without, and then spray a little bit on the top to see how it develops. You get this like a really malty notes and a sweetness.
Sorry, Alex, which cocktail is that?
This is the heather, bee pollen, Damascus rose, and gentian. So it's basically take on old-fashioned. One thing about Genevas is like, I cut the sweetness in half. It still comes, because of the malted space, it comes quite sweet. That's why I like it. Shall we jump on the next one? Let's talk some liqueurs, because yeah, this is the one. I think you know, in the bar school you often taught like you know, this is how you use liqueurs, and I disagree with that, because I think there's many different ways how you can use liqueurs, because you can support fresh ingredients with the liqueur. You can use it as an accent, or you can use it to lift flavors. And I know tiki is really big right now everywhere. And the Kuyper has these new tiki mugs. By the way, I'm not supposed to tell you, but I'm going to tell you. If you want some of these, just get in touch with the guys from the Kuyper, because they're amazing. I would like some as well to bring to UK. So the next thing I want to show you is a take on a tiki drink, or it's like my interpretation of a banana daiquiri. And I think when you think of ingredients like bananas, the reason why daiquiris sometimes don't work with bananas is because bananas are harvested by monkeys, but also it's a very viscous ingredient. It's very powerful flavor. You don't realize that when you have it with milk in the morning, but like, you need to have something to cut through the banana, and that's why we spiced up with Seb the Bacardi Ocho. We're gonna do a shot later with some spices, and we added some koji, because koji has this like a moldy, moorish, almost salty flavors to that, and that's what I'm gonna be serving you next, with a little sprinkle of furikake, like a little rice seasoning. So it's almost like a savory take on the drink. When we've been discussing, you know, the tiki mug, we said, you know, we should garnish it somehow, because I think, you know, that's what tiki is about. But I forgot my garnish in Sydney, so I thought I need to do it, you know, somehow extravagant. And we used to have a drink at Artisan, which we used to garnish with money, with £20. But then we got Brexit. You heard about Brexit. And suddenly the garnish wasn't cool about. So I said, I need to bring some euros, because that's a bigger value. Would you like 20 euro? You know, like, and this is the difference between bartenders in Australia and Europe. Because if I tell somebody in Europe that I'm gonna give them cocktail and a 20 euro, they would go crazy. But in Australia, the minimum wage is $25. So who gives a fuck about? We have the banana and koji coming. Would you like 20 euro? Or do I only tell you about liquor? He takes the euro. Yeah. So we have banana, rum, and the the euros. This thing about money. But the reason why it's gonna taste so great is the Kuyper liqueur. Because even though if you have a fresh fruit, sometimes you need that flavor lift, and that's what we're gonna talk about. 20 euros only for you. Yeah? Oh my god! It's for you. Huh? You don't want it? Beautiful. We're gonna. It's not real money. Well, I was only joking. It's my tiki mug. Pardon me? Perfectly legal. Actually, they checked me really thoroughly at the border. I think Australia is one of the most difficult countries to get. I thought that US was really tough. But like coming here, they're like, oh, we have a real problem with scanning your passport. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's 2 months old. I just had it made, the new passport. And they're like, yeah, we can't scan it. Would you like to come for a little interview? They kept me for half an hour. Now the next way of using a liqueur, I want to talk about the drinks we have coming up next. In this case, I wanted to work with roasted cauliflower and mezcal because I've been recently in Mexico. And I think one flavor which works really well with cauliflower is coffee. Now when you talk about coffee, of course, there's many different ways. But if you put too much coffee, it takes over everything. So here we have vermouth, which has been infused with the roasted cauliflower. We roasted all the cauliflower, maybe Frank in Sydney. And then we added just a bar spoon of the Kuyper crème de café. Why? Because it has all the spice, it has all the other notes, and that's why it's going to work particularly well. A little touch of lemon on the top, because you all know that cauliflower smells disgusting and tastes great. So it's once again about understanding how the ingredients work and what will be the result. I'll have one as well. Thank you. Small one. Thank you very much. So to me, there's no rule that a spirit you always need to put, 2 shots and a liqueur, a single shot. There's many different ways how to use liqueurs. And I would like to sum it up with my next drink, which really, I think, sums up the philosophy of what we did at Artesian. The next thing I'm going to make you is called the cedar and orange. Once again, to me, cedar wood is a really fascinating ingredient. And I was chatting with the chef upstairs early on, and you were so kind to show me, because you have so many ingredients here I never seen in my life. So the only thing which came up to me was the cedar, and I wanted to use it. So over here, I blended it with some aquavit, touch of lemon. We have some Fino sherry there, and of course the Kuyper triple sec. Because I think the woody and the citrus combines really well together. So I have it all here in the shaker. We're gonna shake it, and I show you the presentation. To me, like going to a cocktail bar or having drinks, like it needs to be a bit of show. It needs to be entertaining. And I think that going to a cocktail bar, it's almost like going to the magician show. Like, you know how these things are done. Like, banning 20 euros, bullshit. But you still enjoy it because it's fun, right? And this is exactly what this drink is about. So we're gonna strain this over ice and serve it in the box. Now, you had many things served in the box in your life, if you like restaurants and thing. But to me,
Ideally.
all of these things are always about giving the extra surprise to the guests, because I'm making it in front of you, so you all see what I'm doing. You know that you will have a box and the smoke will come out. So it's about doing, something else with it. We have some cherry wood in there with touch of molasses. Hopefully we're not going to evacuate the blackbird. That wouldn't be a good thing to do. So I'll fill the box with smoke, and we're going to close it down. Here you go. So how do you create, that little extra surprise? There needs to be one extra layer, and that's really, this outlines my entire cocktail philosophy, because when you open it, there's something else which happened to it, which people often don't realize at the table. So it's illuminated. It's stupid. It's like in a nightclub, when you order a bottle of vodka. But the thing is, you know how it's done, but it works. So you will have some seed and orange with the Kuyper triple sec coming right now. Talking about hospitality, I'm gonna trip over here one day. It's good. I can sue somebody here. Maybe they say, "Oh, we're gonna get you a green card. You can move to Australia. We pay you $25 per hour." That would be amazing. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. He told me last night he was looking for a barback, so I have a chance. Great. So as I said before, like everything about hospitality has been said. And I was thinking long and hard, like, is there a couple of rules, or is there like something essential which would outline absolutely everything? Like if you meant to tell somebody a piece of advice for both professional and personal life, like what the sentence would be. And I don't speak English. It's not my first language. I was born in the Czech Republic. I'm from Prague. So I translated it like this. I think the thing number one when it comes to hospitality is something what Josh Harris from Trick Dog in San Francisco told me. Like, don't be a dick. like if you want to succeed in life, you need to be a nice person, first of all. Like, I used to work in this hotel in London. You might have heard of it. And the first day on the job, I'm passing in the corridor, and I see these guys from Nigeria, and they were wearing these blue overcoats. And I was like, fuck, these are the most important people, because whatever you need in the bar, like these guys make it happen. And I say, hey, how you doing? And they were like surprised that I spoke with them. And I realized that none of the management, no one ever talked to these people. And then 5 years later, when the pipes above the spirit cellar broke and the whole spirit cellar was flooded with dirt water, these were the only people who helped me. If it was the GM of the hotel coming down there asking them for help, they would tell him to, fuck off. So it's really, if you are a nice person, you're gonna get so much more further in life, no matter whether it's a private or whether it's at work. So talking about bar brands or how to develop a successful bar brand, I think you need to start with yourself. And you need to define the language you are. You need to define the aesthetic. You need to define yourself. Because let's be honest, you cannot satisfy everybody out there. You need to understand who you are, what you're standing for, what's the community you come from, and then you work with that. And when I talk about things like language and aesthetics, this is how people will perceive you. The other day I was in the place, and we were having dinner, and I said, can I have one more beer? No problem. Well, if there's no problem, why you tell me there's no problem? Because we all know that problem is a negative word. And anything negative comes as loud, 3 times more louder than anything positive. So if there's no problem with my beer, don't tell me there's no problem. Yeah? Because why would you even mention something negative if there's no problem? But if there's no problem, don't tell me there's a problem. Because if you say no problem, the problem is still a negative word. It's sometimes it's a very little nuance. So that's what I think is important. In any company, in any business, at the heart of everything will always be your team. And what is important for the team? It's always collaboration. And I don't mean the fancy collaboration with different companies. I mean working together. I took probably out of my entire team the most credit for the success of Artesian. And let me tell you, there was another 20 people working for the success of the bar every single day. So working together, having the values, having right goals stated, these are the important things which will make your bar succeed. If you don't set yourself goals, well, what are you working for? You actually have no idea what you're doing. And for that, you need strategic planning, because if you don't plan, you actually don't have a plan. So what are you gonna do? You're just gonna be doing the things. If you have a plan, if you want to improve, if you want to do different things and better things, that's when things happen. So always have a plan. You need to know what you're doing next week, in 5 months, in 3 and 5 years. It sounds almost like a textbook from a school of economics, but it doesn't matter whether you're running a bar, a restaurant, or an IT firm. It's always the same. So planning, I think, is really essential. And then the last two things I put here is a focus and a discipline, because bar really needs to be like an army, and the best armies are the ones which not have the best equipment, but the ones which are organized in the best way. And I feel that that's very much what applies to bars. If your team is focused and you have the discipline, that's when things happen. People would say, oh my God, the guys at Artisan, they used to drink like mad. We would have a shot here and there, but no one ever realized that in the speed rail, there was always 2 bottles of Tapatio tequila, one filled with water and the other one with tequila. So when you pour, you know who gets the water and who gets the tequila. It's impossible for me as a bartender to be drinking all night and, then have things in order, be organized. Like, let's be honest, no? And I don't feel bad about it, because that's, you're running a business. You need to be in there. To me, it's all about hospitality. It's about excellence. It's about education, and it's about passion. And hospitality is not about making money. So if you want to make loads of money, let me assure you there's a lot of different industries to make that. Because hospitality, first of all, is about doing nice things to other people. And the reason why I'm in hospitality and why I want to open my place is because I love to be around people and I love to chat with people. I love to socialize. And I think it's just nice to be together. Excellence to me is about doing things better every day. I mean, I'm still kind of crap, and I don't have a real job right now, but it's about going there. Okay, today I'm gonna improve this, the day after this, and that's how you grow. And it's also very important to grow the people around you, because I think if you pay fair wages and if you grow people, this is how they will stick with you. We have a huge issue in hospitality, because apart from Australia, when you have $25, I really need to move here. Like in Europe, it's really underpaid. Like most of my friends cannot afford to live in the cities where they work. And that's kind of wrong, because bar is always a part of a community. And if you are not attached to the community, well, how the hell are you meant to belong there? So I think we need to talk. It's important to grow your colleagues and your staff. If you grow them, which very few people do, this one happens. If you look at all the most successful companies in the world, they're always successful because they look after the people. And the last thing I want to talk about is passion, because that's for me the number one factor to hiring anyone. You cannot teach passion. You're either passionate or you're not. There's no other way. I can teach you how to throw a cocktail. I can teach you how to make a recipe. I can teach you how to make a box and how to put a vodka light underneath. But like, I cannot teach you how to be passionate. So that's very important to me. So what is more important to you? Is it your suppliers? Is it your customers? Or is it your staff? Hospitality is always, absolutely always, about common sense. Why do you give somebody a glass of water before you give them nuts? It's very simple, because if they start to choke, they have nothing to drink. So they're gonna die. Now, if you have somebody die at your bar, you're not going anywhere. So I always explain hospitality about ice scoop you buy for your staff. If it's made from the plastic, it doesn't get as cold as if from metal. And I always have the ones with the holes, so the bartenders don't need to be draining the water, because the water drains automatically. It's a nice thing to give somebody plastic scoop, because if you're meant to be holding a plastic scoop for 50 years, your joints and all the things, with the metallic one, it's gonna go bad. This one, a little better. You look after your people with a small gestures like this. So the most important thing you need to have is a staff. Because if you don't look after your staff, there's nobody to look after your guests. And if you don't look after your suppliers, who for me, in my eyes, are number 2, Well, if you don't have suppliers, what are you going to sell? Because you have nothing to sell. If you don't have a good relationship with distribution with your suppliers, they're not only going to supply you, but first of all, they're not going to give you a credit. And we all know that in the bar business, cash flow is so important. If you don't have a cash flow, you are kind of fucked. Again, they told me yesterday I shouldn't swear that much. But I read in the newspaper that it's cool in Australia. I normally don't swear. Yeah. Yeah, so it's always you, staff, suppliers, then comes community, and investors are the least people you worry about. Talented people like you will always find plenty of investors. They are important. It's important to make the right partnership, but without your staff, suppliers, and the community, there's no point to get investors. My staff, then, I hire based on the following criteria. It's the optimism. I want to work with people who are happy and who see the glass always half full. A little bit of intelligence goes a long way, work ethic, empathy, and integrity. I think that's really all you need. You know, like I used to make all the interviews and ask people all these ridiculous human resources questions. And at the end I realized, it's like, I just invite people to spend the day with us. You know, because if somebody really wants to work with you, it's going to be easy for them to take a day off of their week and come to spend some time to see whether they enjoy it, and for you, whether you want them to be there. If you're doing interview, you can tell very little. You can rely on the first instinct, but you can also be wrong. So at the end, I just had people to hang around for the day, you know, have a drink, see whether you like it, see whether you like the philosophy. That's very important. When it comes to suppliers, I think number one thing is reliability, because you need your product when you need it. And let's be honest, we are bartenders, so we make a lot of mistakes when we mess up orders. I do all the time. So I need to know that I'm going to be able to get it on Saturday. After that comes the quality of the products, the ethics. You know, don't forget, if you choose a supplier which has a very poor ethics, it's going to reflect upon yourself, because you are what you think you are from 50%, and the other 50% is what people think you are. So if you're working with somebody who's a dick, as I told you, don't be a dick, it's going to reflect poorly on yourself. Price, relationship, you know. Sometimes it's better to spend more money and make more money in the long term than be achieving these short-term results, which is the latest fashion in hospitality and in all the brands. I see it all around the world. All the group bar managers, head bartenders, you know, these are people now. It's a fashion of making this short-term impact. People come, they take 1 year to get on speed, second year to make a difference, and third year they're already not on a job. That's wrong. Running a place like this place is going to be here for many, many years. So it's important we have a long-term vision, so we plan strategically. Community. Being involved in the community was a huge part of my, and still is, a huge part of the success. We used to run these charity dinners, so we would invite rich people for a cocktail dinner, and they would have this cocktail pairing, spend a lot of money, and then we would donate it all on charity. So everybody worked on the dinner by themselves for free on their off. It was received very warmly within the neighborhood in London where we've been working. And a lot of people would work around and come to the bar only because, you know, they felt we were doing nice things to give to the neighborhood. So I think when you're running a bar, it's always very important to realize where you're actually at. You're in the middle of the community, and the more you are involved in that community, the more it will help. I used to work for a company in Japan, running a lot of nightclubs, and I used to live in Minatoku and in Tokyo. And the funny thing, one day, a ring on the door. I didn't expect anyone. And I opened the door, and there was the store manager from next door with a basket with a bottle of wine, chocolates, and you know, all the other snacks. And in very broken English, he explained to me, because I don't, my Japanese is even more broken. He explained to me that they're going to be doing some works on Saturday morning. So they came to apologize in advance for making noise, you know. Then I think on Saturday morning they did like this, and that was it. But nobody in the whole neighborhood complained because they came to apologize in the first place. You know, so hospitality is not about doing nice things to other people, but also about being generous And I think like now I'm opening my own place. I'm telling you, before I start to do any works in there, everybody's getting present. So you should move somewhere next to me so you get something nice. The last thing really I want to switch through is something what we used to call non-negotiable. I hated for years to work in a very corporate hotel environment, and I felt that a lot of the manuals were written wrong. So I created my own, a very short one, and I put it next to the spirit cellar because it was in the corridor where nobody from the management would pass, so they never realized. And non-negotiable was basically a set of rules. It was like a constitution, you know. So on the first day, I would take the staff downstairs to the corridor, and I would run them through this list of rules and items. And I told them, if you're not sure about something, just remember these. You just go back to them, and it will explain you everything what we do in this bar. So here they are. It's literally copy-paste. First one, no I in artisan. Respect people you work with. You know, that's very important, especially when you're managing, you know, people who are a little more well-known in the industry than others. If you have two bartenders who, you know, are doing well in the comps, you know, some of the people in the team, they're occasionally going to get pissed off because they're taking extra days off, etc., etc. So I think it's always very important to understand that the bar is about the whole team. And you, as a person, need to understand where's your place. Because not everybody can be at the front. There's many different jobs we need to fill. Respecting the people you work with, I think that should be the essence in every company. Not being jealous. So you see that the first three rules are really about setting the mindset. You should never be jealous of your colleagues, because if somebody is successful, it's your success too, because you work in one team. So if somebody wins something, you know, you winning as well, and that's how you need to look at it. The next thing I want to talk about is mistakes. Because everybody has the right to make a mistake. But if you correct someone, and they do it again and again and again, you keep on correcting them, they're essentially telling you to fuck off, because they don't care. So I allow people to make mistakes, but if they keep on doing them, they need to go. It's like a case of lemons you have in the fridge or in the cellar. The moment you have one bad lemon in the case, eventually all of them will go wrong. So it's uncomfortable, sometimes it's tough. You will have to pick up extra shifts, or you will be really stressed out. But sometimes it's good to throw a couple of lemons out. Design, I think design is a really funny word, and I'm quoting Steve Jobs, just if you were wondering where I saw this one from. It's not about how it looks, it's about how it works. So think about it. Now, if you're building a bar, you know, try to make it easy for your staff, because the staff will appreciate it. Is this chair comfortable to sit on? Can you sit here for another hour? We're not going to be here another hour, don't worry. But like, these are the questions you need to ask yourself, because if you design a cocktail serve, which is big like this, you need to be sure that every single table in the bar will be able to accommodate that and fit it in. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Very famous English saying. I think if it's not broken, make it better, because everything can be improved. And I've been in this bar for over 10 years. Every single time we got somebody young and new with a fresh pair of eyes, they found ways of how to do things better. We changed the station several times. Sometimes it was literally with a hammer. But it's important to kind of try to have a fresh perspective on things, because it's very easy to get lazy. So it's about, can we do this better? Can we serve these drinks faster? Who said you couldn't? You know, challenge rules, you know. This is a very old example, and some of you probably heard it before. Like, one of our really successful drink was served out of a slushy machine, because one of the themes for the menu was a disco, and we wanted to make a disco menu. So we were researching all the different ways of doing frozen drinks, and we said, well, actually, hold on a second. If you put stuff in the slushy machine, you don't need to add ice, because you will calculate the dilution and you will freeze what you need to be freezing. So as opposite to the blender, where you have no control of temperature, dilution, and a couple of other factors, this is actually a better way of doing things. So I said, I would like a slushy machine. And the management went crazy. Because slushie machine is something for a club, for a bar in New Orleans or whatever. I was like, it really depends on what you put inside, because if you put fresh ingredients, if you squeeze the lime juice fresh inside, you can get an amazing result. So the way how I got around it, I was challenge management. So do we have actually manual which says that hotel companies or luxury hotels can have a slushie machine? Of course, such a manual doesn't exist. The rule never existed. So we got a slushie machine, and then tens of thousands of drinks we sold, selling them at £20, which is almost $40, used to be before Brexit. The management were like, we approve this, of course. They created themselves, The first slushie machine we got from Bacardi, the management didn't even buy it. But they don't hesitate to credit themselves after the success. It's fine. Create awesomeness, like find solutions rather than be searching for excuses. It's so easy to find an excuse. Tell you another story. Friday night, super busy, and the barback looks at me, oh, I ran out of glassware. I was like, find the fucking glassware. But I don't have any. I was like, and did you go to the lounge? And did you steal some from the tea lounge? No. And the door is locked. I was like, did you think of jumping across the bar counter? And he said, no. I was like, then go and jump. So he runs to the tea lounge, jumps across the bar top. We managed to do the whole service. We taken a great revenue. And after when we cleaning the bar, I texted the tea lounge manager just so he knew that we did that, because I was sure something's gonna go wrong. In the morning I wake up and the first email of the day comes from the security manager, who was checking the cameras overnight, and of course he's seen the guys from Artesian jumping the counter, and then they found a little bit of the shoe print on the counter. So it's a big hello, but the tea lounge manager was like, we knew about it. So sometimes it's good to break rules. And it's great to work in hospitality, in our business, because we are one of the last kind of places on this planet where you can actually do things, sometimes break rules, to make things happen and to create something good. If you work in a post office or in a bank, and I come, you cannot give me extra $10,000 loan just because I'm a good-looking guy, because the rules can't do that. In hospitality, we have this amazing power to tweak things and sometimes to break rules a little bit. And if somebody's not happy, we replace them drinks and make them come again and make even more money long term. So that's very important. Create awesomeness. It's so easy just to make excuses. Or, don't cry. Make it happen. Be curious. I always tell my staff, look at things by the eyes of the children. Because the way how kids see things is not about what is it, because it's a thing to cook eggs. What can I do with it? I can serve cocktails with it. And this is really the approach we should all have. And the last thing, or pretty much the thing before the last, is the communication. If I didn't text this tea lounge manager, it would be a huge issue and everybody would get in trouble. But because he knew about it, he killed the security manager with one single line of email. London is very multicultural. I think the percentage of people who are not from UK in London is high a little bit than most cities in Australia. And one thing which used to, or maybe I'm wrong, but one thing which used to frustrate me all the time was like, how do I explain things to people? Out of when we've been busy the most, we had I think 25 staff members, and 20 out of them, we used to have 21 nationalities, one British, and the rest different nationalities. So it was for us, it was always about finding, ways. How can I describe something which everybody will get? We all have different religions, we come from different places. So it's what is the one thing which applies to absolutely everybody globally? And then I was like, well, it's a mom, because your mother is the most important person, no matter where you come from, no matter what religion or political views you have. No? So don't be a dick. And the second rule, which you need to remember about hospitality, is about would you serve it to your mother? Yeah? No matter where you come from, mother is the most important person of your life. And I don't think any of you would underpour your mother a shot of whiskey. No? If your mother orders a double shot, you're not going to underpour your mother. But how many times in your life you underpour on other people? If my mother orders gin and tonic, I put extra 15 ml. She likes it stronger, you know? So every time you try to cheat a little bit in the bar, if you try to cut a corner a little bit, ask yourself, would you do it to your mother? Because if you would done it to your mom, it's perfectly fine. For Michael Jackson, for British Queens, when she comes to Australia, you know. So there's two things you need to remember. Every time you cut in corner, would you do it to your mom? That's all you need to run, all you need to know to run a successful bar. Thank you so much.